I've never really been a car guy. I can't identify a single model by name without just literally reading it on the back of the car. If you showed me a bunch of car logos, I might be able to identify the brand, but only if the symbol is the first letter of the company name. And even then, there's only a 50% chance I get it right between Honda and Hyundai. Whenever my car starts making that loud grinding noise, my solution to the issue is to crank the volume up to maximum to drown out the sound. On the rare instances I do actually pop open the hood of my car, I always find myself standing outside in the blistering heat for 30 minutes, yelling at YouTube tutorials for being both too vague and too technical, only to ultimately give up once I realize I don't have the right kind of socket wrench attachment. Needless to say, I don't know shit about cars. Anyway, here's everything I hate about them. Okay, first things first, can I just talk about how expensive these things are? Because good God, what rich assholes refer to as an economy car costs close to 1 year's salary for a good chunk of people, myself included, which already kind of fucked up considering people need these things in order to go to the place where they make money in order to pay for this thing so they can keep going to the place where they make money. It's a vicious cycle. Circle? Cycle? Whatever. And since that price tag is so hefty, more often than not, you have to finance the thing, tacking on another monthly bill on top of all the other ones you're already paying. With stupidly high interest rates, I might add, where by the time you've finished paying it off, you've probably paid twice the thing's worth. But that's not the end. Not even close. Because sure, you bought the car, but don't forget, you gotta register it with the state too. How much is that gonna cost you? Great question. No one knows. It's always different. Apparently it has to deal with like how new your car is, the weight of it, market value, but I'm pretty convinced it's entirely random. They just make up a new number every year. Oh, did I mention you have to register it every year? Because you do, and make sure you do it on time, because if you don't, it's gonna cost you extra. Okay, so you got the car financed, you got the okay from the state. Surely you can take that bad boy out for a spin now, right? No, because here's the thing, that f***er's not insured. And guess what, bozo? You don't got a choice in that matter. You have to, emphasis on have to, pay for insurance. It's a crime not to. And why is it that these rolling deathmobiles need to be insured? Well, if that sentence didn't make it obvious, it's because there's an uncomfortably high chance that either you're gonna plow that big hunk of machinery into another driver, or they're gonna plow into you. And who do you think is gonna pay for that? That's right, you! What, you thought the insurance company, the company you pay to cover instances like this, is gonna pay for an instance like this? Fuck no. They're gonna do everything within their power to weasel out of paying any expense. Because, as everyone knows, the purpose of insurance companies isn't to insure their clients. No, it's to exploit their hostages, customers, in order to increase profit and share value. What the fuck is that doing there? Alright, car, bought. Registration, acquired. Insurance, forcibly imposed. Now it's time to finally get that bad boy out on the road, and son of a gun, what do you know? It doesn't have any gas. That's right, you can't forget that bi-weekly hidden cost, fuel, the thing that makes cars go and the planet boil. Yeah, did I mention these things are like one of the biggest contributors to climate change due to their constant insatiable thirst for fossil fuels? 'Cause they are. And you can bet your bottom dollar, all of that gas, it's gonna cost your bottom dollar. Now, you could try to avoid this by getting an EV. Just good luck finding somewhere to plug that puppy in. All right, it took us a while to get here, but we're in the car, we've got the credentials, we've got all the legal requirements met, the tank is full. Let's throw this thing into drive and what was that noise? What was that noise? Why is the check engine light on? God damn it! And we've come to yet another hidden cost of these rolling money pits. Repair costs. Yeah, these things just fall apart. That's just something they do. Often, while driving them. Guess it's time to roll it on down to the shop, except wait, we can't drive it because it doesn't fucking go. So now we gotta pay for a tow truck to take it in, who will maybe give us a ride there, drop it off, Uber home, get a phone call telling us the part needed to fix the car has to be specially ordered from Germany, and also it's on back order for the next 6 weeks. So we pay for a rental car to avoid getting fired, drive that thing around for 6 weeks, only to be handed a bill that will have you questioning whether a 3-hour walk to work is really all that long. Okay, enough with the finances. It's time to talk about the real issue with these things, in that they are so unbelievably dangerous. Like, they kill so many people, and we've all just accepted it. Every morning we hear about the horrific crashes that happened last night, take into account how that's gonna affect the morning commute, and then hop into our own little death machines, pushing out the thought that there's a non-zero chance that we actually might not make it to our final destination. And that is due to a number of factors, such as speed. These things are fast. Like, really fast. Like, way too goddamn fast. Just your average basic car can reach up to 140 miles an hour, with some top-of-the-line engines capable of reaching 250 miles an hour. And to that, I say, fucking why? There's not a single freeway in the country that lets you go that fast. Why is something that can do that not only street legal, but also available to members of the public? Literally, any crypto bro going through a midlife crisis is allowed to buy one. That is what Speed Racer drove in Speed Racer. Why is it allowed on I-65? People are not built to move that fast. Or I guess they weren't built to stop that fast. I've got no problem with moving at high speeds in like the air where there isn't much else to run into, or on a track where there isn't much else to run into. But on a road, I'm sharing a whole lot of space with other very fast moving vehicles, many of which are heading in my exact opposite direction. That is absolutely insane that is the system we came up with. You're telling me it's perfectly fine for me to drive on a single lane, two-way road in my tiny little two-door Honda Civic going 65. Meanwhile, a fully loaded 80,000-pound Mack truck hurtles down the same stretch of road heading in the opposite direction, piloted by an overworked trucker whose interior cabin consists of nothing but empty 5-hour energies and a few piss-filled Gatorade bottles? Did I mention the only barrier between the two of us is an imaginary line represented by a streak of yellow paint? How is that supposed to protect me? What is keeping this poor, sleep-deprived man from nodding off and sliding his way on over into my lane? I'm just hoping he's not driving one of those new age trucks where the dashboard's been replaced by a touchscreen. Which, by the way, why the fuck is that even a thing? After years and years of everyone telling us how dangerous it is for us to be using our phones while driving, how was every car manufacturer allowed to replace all of our buttons and dials with what is essentially a giant smartphone. It used to be, if I wanted my music to be louder, I could just reach over without looking and turn the volume knob up, but oops, I'm in a modern car now where there's only one dial and it's currently set to control the AC. So not only am I now shivering, but I'm also forced to divert my gaze from the road to the universal iPad that controls every aspect of my vehicle, where I'm forced to search through 5,000 menus so I can switch the dial controls from temperature levels over to music volume, but shit, I was using the GPS and my next exit is coming up, so now I gotta go back through all those menus and bring that back up before I miss my... Oh no, it seems I've crashed my vehicle into a family of 7. They're all dead now. But you know, it's not like a big deal or anything, seeing as how that shit happens every 6 seconds in the US alone. And instead of finding safer ways to transport people or investing in public transportation systems, we elect to just floor cars into a wall of cement, make a note that only 2 out of 4 dummies ended up with snapped necks, and then mass produce the car and sell it to the general public. I guess from a business point of view, it makes sense. Cause if you total that car, they gotta make it just safe enough that you survive the crash and get yourself a nice big medical bill. Then you can wheel yourself on over to the dealership to dig yourself into an even deeper pit of debt. It's genius. Could companies please stop with the bullshit? Safety is our #1 concern. Profits are your #1 concern. Safety's like 12. Case in point, recalls. You heard about these? Yeah, sometimes a car model will be sold to the general public only for a fatal flaw in its design to be discovered well after thousands of them have hit asphalt. In these events, the manufacturer issues a recall where drivers can have the issue fixed at the cost of the manufacturer. In most cases, these are pretty minor. However, other times, they can be horrifyingly severe. For example, the case of the Ford Pinto. Pinto? Pinto? I don't know cars. These things had a neat little quirk where, in the event of a rear-end collision, there was a non-zero chance that the car would burst into flames. But did the company know about the issue before shipping the car to dealerships? Yes, they did. But they figured the cost of the lawsuits would be cheaper than doing a recall. So they just kept their mouths shut. That's right, that conversation from Fight Club is real, and your car is secretly trying to kill you. Or what about the period between 92 and 04, where an issue with Ford's cruise control would cause the cars to spontaneously combust, even when they weren't on. That's right, these things were self-immolating in parking lots, on the side of the street, and even inside the family garage, causing entire homes to go up in flames in the middle of the night. Ain't that fun? Now, allow me to shift gears real quick. Up until this point, my focus has mainly been on the cars themselves, but there's another factor that makes these things so dangerous: the people driving them. Notice I said people, not certified professionals, just people. Like the ones you see outside. Have you talked to the people outside? They are stupid as shit. And what qualifications do they have to operate these pieces of heavy machinery? Well, they spent 2 weeks learning from a high school football coach how to drive a 92 Corolla, then took a multiple choice written test, followed by a 10-minute session on the road, evaluated by a twice divorced angry DMV clerk. And that's it. They're now allowed to drive for life. Now, drivers come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, and I'm gonna go down the list and complain about each type, starting with the elderly. As we age, our vision blurs, our reflexes slow, our bones wither and become frail. In contrast, our stubbornness seems to spike exponentially. Because even though these old bastards can't even climb into their Ford Explorers without assistance, they cling to their driver's licenses as if their hands have early onset rigor mortis. Hand it over, Gertrude. You've been driving for nearly a century at this point. A lot's changed since then, and also, you can't see. We are both scared for and of you. Moving on, we've got the flip side of the elderly driver, the brand new driver. From what I can tell, there are two kinds of new drivers, which I refer to as the fast and the anxious. The fast being the ones doing 60 in a 25 without seeming to be aware they're made out of the same squishy materials as you and me. And the anxious being the ones suffering from a nervous breakdown as they work up the nerve to enter a roundabout. The cars don't stop, that's the entire point, just fucking go. You'd think they'd be the best drivers out there considering they just took the test and all the rules should be fresh in their minds, but unfortunately the average 16-year-old mind is filled to the brim with Fortnite, leaving out any room for cognitive thought. And these new ones coming in? Good God. We've fried their brains so bad we're gonna have to display sped up ASMR compilations across the top half of the windshield in order to keep their eyes on the road. Moving on from ageism, we get into a category that honestly covers about 99% of drivers. How do I put this nicely? Mentally stunted drivers. These are the people who, by some miracle, were able to pass a written test despite lacking the ability to fucking read. You can regularly spot these simpletons driving the wrong way down one-way roads, treating stop signs as if they are merely suggestions, or suddenly merging into my lane as they finally realize theirs is ending, even though they were given ample warning that was gonna happen 2 miles back by a giant flashing sign. I don't like that someone that unaware of their surroundings is allowed to exist. The next type of driver I'll be talking about is the angry driver. Now, I don't fully understand the psychology behind it, but for whatever reason, no matter how rational or level-headed the individual, once a person climbs into the driver's seat of any vehicle, the synapses in their mind rearrange, causing their sanity meter to deplete rapidly. There is just something about sharing the road with your fellow man that releases the inner vitriol and hatred you have for your fellow man. But in all fairness, it doesn't register in the human brain that all those other cars on the road have people inside them, because those people's faces have been replaced by the cold, unfeeling facade of a Hyundai Sonata. Which means, on the road, there are no other people, only enemies. And if your enemy cuts you off, what are you gonna do? Just take that? Like a little bitch? No. You do what any rational human being would do in that situation, flip them off, and try to run them off the road. I'm kidding. Obviously, you only lightly consider the second part, and then remember, no matter how justified it would be, the prison sentence just isn't worth it. Now, is there a chance I was simply in that person's blind spot and they just didn't happen to see me as they nearly sent me spiraling into an early grave? Sure, maybe. Would it be healthier to give that person the benefit of the doubt rather than stewing on the transgression against my person for the rest of the day? Inconclusive. Look, obviously I'm exaggerating. My road rage mostly consists of me grumbling to myself under my breath because I'm terrified of confrontation, and also, this is America, and that guy might have a gun. But surprisingly enough, road ragers are not the most dangerous drivers on the road. No, that honor, of course, belongs to the Asian driver, the female driver, the drunk driver. Yeah, we gotta get serious for a second. Drunk driving incidents make up a massive percentage of car crashes and are entirely avoidable. There's also the kind of irony that drunk drivers are more likely to survive the accidents they cause, which is just so completely backwards. It adds an extra layer to the survivor's guilt they must feel for their absolutely horrible decision. So just take this as a little PSA. Seriously, just don't drink and drive. In this day and age when Uber exists, there's really no reason to not just get one and come back and pick the car up the next morning. It might be expensive, but I promise it's a lot cheaper than the medical bills, insurance costs, and overwhelming guilt you'll be stuck with for the rest of your life. But if we're being totally truthful here, we can't expect people to be better, right? They're people. They fuck shit up all the time. We can show them as many dashcam crash videos as we want, they're still gonna convince themselves it's okay to text and drive as long as they only do it at red lights. So really, where do we go from here? Kick everyone out and go all in on driverless cars? Yeah, sure, sounds nice, except those things are made by people who, again, are severely prone to f***ing shit up. Like, really? You want to ride around in a full-size Roomba? Those things bang into more walls than Helen Keller in a funhouse. And like, you know, what's keeping f***ing Mr. Robot from hacking into the car's GPS and redirecting me into the nearest lake? Everyone's trying to look to the future, when in reality, the answer is in the past. That's right, I'm talking about horses. Everybody turns in their cars and they get a free horse. We'll have a little community stable to keep them in. We'll hitch them outside the saloon when we go out, and you can get as plastered as you want. Worst case scenario, you fall off your horse and break your neck. That's only one death. Way better than the 7 from earlier. Yeah, they're still dead. Don't forget about them. So send that big hunk of junk to the scrapyard and get yourself a brand new Mustang. Not that kind, you know what I mean. Anyway, that's the video. I'm certain everyone agrees with absolutely everything I said, so feel free to say just how much you agree with me down in the comments. Sorry it takes me so long to make these videos. I really want to get faster at this. I'm really gonna try to get faster at this, but you know, we'll see how that goes. But you know, like, subscribe, and fucking, I don't know, I'll see you in the next one eventually.